I think, Anurag, thank you for such a kind introduction. I really appreciate that. So I just want to add one more thing to it, that I'm a parent as well. And I have two children, a little bit older than the people that we have in this meeting today. My older one, she's almost 30, went to Monte Vista in Cupertino, then UCLA, worked for 5 years, finishing up her MBA at UC Berkeley now. And she's an entrepreneur in parallel with finishing her MBA. In case you're wondering why am I talking about all that, you'll get the answer during the discussion over the next 45 to 50 minutes. My son, younger one, finished college from University of Chicago, and he is now working. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm a parent as well. So you would see a lot of the comments that I would make would be around parenting and similar things, so you know where I'm coming from. And last point that I want to make before I jump into our slides for today is what motivates me is I want you guys, and Anurag, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm making an assumption that all our students today,
Yes.
these are
Yes.
from first-generation immigrant families.
I think vast majority of them are, yes.
Okay.
That's right.
So what I really want to do, and I think what my guess is what Anurag wants to do, and the other chaperones, the parent chaperones that are here today, Geeta and others, we really want you guys to break glass ceilings in this country. For us as parents, for us to come from India, here it was, we uprooted ourselves and we were just settling into this country. But what I'm really hopeful for or hopeful about is for you guys to build from the base that your parents have built and to get into positions of influence and break all kind of glass ceilings in this country. And to do that, you just need to be fearless and think differently. So that is the context I wanted to provide. So with that, Anurag, with your permission, I'm going to jump into my slides.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Okay, so can I take control of this at my end?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Can you let
yes,
me
I
know?
can.
Sure.
if you give me the sharing rights, please.
All right. I made you co-host.
Okay, and whosoever is sharing, if we can stop sharing.
Yeah, I think you have to basically just say unshare on your side, and then it'll become available.
Yeah, I stopped sharing.
Yeah, sounds like
Stop
you're
sharing, yeah.
good. All right. Anurag, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see
All
it.
right. Okay, so let's see the time. Let's do a time check here. Okay, so I'll try to keep this in, say, about 15 minutes or so. Anurag, feel free to send me a panelist text in case I'm being too verbose. So what I want to talk to all of you today is to give you a high-level summary of how you should think of college admissions and what are the most important things that you should be focusing on. And Anurag, the assumption I'm making is that the students here are from grades 8 till 11.
8 till 12. There are some
Okay.
seniors as well, but most of them are 8 through 11, yes.
Okay, excellent. So the key messages I want to leave for the 12th graders, obviously, is too late. Unfortunately, you've been through the stress, and I hope that you've gotten into your dream college, and I wish you luck. For the others, my very first message is that regardless of what you hear from whosoever else, there is absolutely no need to stress about this process. Why? Number one, stress is unhealthy. It's unhealthy for young people like you. It's unhealthy for me and Anurag. And it doesn't help. I will promise you, even though I don't know any of you yet, that there is a college for every single one of you in this country. There are overall 2,500. You heard me right, 25 with 2 zeros, 2,500 four-year colleges in this country. We know of only a few, and that's what causes us stress, but there is a good college for everyone. The second message that I want to leave behind is that college admissions, especially as you think of the brand name colleges like a Stanford or a Berkeley, UCLA, these are all trending towards what we call a multi-dimensional student. What is that definition? A student who is good at academics, but is good in other dimensions as well. And me and my guest, Karen Rowe, who will come in later, we'll talk a lot about that. Number 3, don't wait till senior year to start preparing for college admissions. In senior year, you only go through the college applications, but to become competitive for college admissions is a journey that starts in 8th grade. So those will be my key messages. And when we close this, we'll come back there. So as you think about college admissions, most of you, my guess, most of you are looking at the names on the screen in terms of, hey, this is what the colleges are, and this is where I want to go. So living in the Bay Area, you obviously know about Stanford, where Anurag is a professor, or Berkeley. You all know about the Ivy Leagues, Harvard, etc., or similar colleges similar to Ivy Leagues like Northwestern or University of Chicago, where my son went. These are not Ivy Leagues, but similarly branded and similarly hard to get into. Now, these colleges, say the top 30 in this country, is what we all think about when we think about college admissions. However, what happens is this. If you look on the screen in terms of statistics, what you would see here is, sorry about that. Okay. Well, what you would see on the screen here is that for the top colleges, the number of applicants is really, really huge. And those numbers have been increasing year over year. So now think about the chances of getting in. Stanford actually happens to be the most difficult college to get into in terms of the percentage of your chance or your chances to get in, 4.3% or roughly there. The Ivy Leagues like Harvard, Brown, these are all in the under 10%. You might think UCLA and Berkeley are a little bit easier, but what happens is that actually, since a lot of us, especially coming from the immigrant families that we are, a lot of us are thinking of engineering and computer science as majors. Those are actually UCLA and Berkeley, they're at about 10%, which is roughly as competitive as an Ivy League. So the message of this screen is, dream about these colleges. It's okay to aspire to these colleges, but don't put all your eggs in this basket because this is a highly risky basket. So some of you that might be thinking that I'm going to be great at academics, which I hope you will, but this is not going to be enough to get into these top colleges for 2 reasons. Look at the average GPA or the GPA ranges at these top colleges. These are not fun numbers because they somehow just make you feel bad about if you have a 3.8, which I think is awesome, these numbers make you look bad. The second thing is that unfortunately, and my bad news is going to stop with this statement, I'm going to talk about just good thing beyond this. Unfortunately, across the country, we are seeing what is called grade dilution, which means that the number of students that have straight A's and even a weighted GPA of 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, it's become relatively common. So again, I'm not dissuading you or discouraging you from academic performance, but what I'm saying is do the best you can, but this is not going to be enough if you aspire to top colleges. So let's look at what are your options. Doing a quick time check here. Broadly speaking, there are 3 different options that you have as you think about colleges and universities. The ones that we just covered, the Ivy Leagues, Stanford, and similar colleges, that's one group. There, within that, you'll have 2 tiers. Stanford and Ivy Leagues are the topmost tier, the most difficult to get into, and then a second and a third tier. Think of Santa Clara University, which is right here in the Bay Area. they would be somewhat of a tier 2 or tier 3. But in Southern California, there are some small colleges like Claremont, Claremont McKenna, or Pomona College, or on the East Coast, there is Amherst. There are these really small colleges, beautiful colleges, really small campus size. These are all in this group. Then there are the public universities, which are funded by the taxpayers. So the University of California, that all of you, my guests, would know about. Out of state public universities like University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, or University of Washington in Seattle, these are generally quite popular for California students. And then our own California State University system, example, San Jose State University, and there are 23 campuses in that system. Public universities are also of two kinds. The top ranked ones like UCs or University of Texas, University of Michigan, University of Washington, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And there is a second tier, say the California State Universities or similar systems in other states. And then there is always this community college option. You study there for 2 years and then you transfer. Is it always a bad option? No. I think for some students, it's actually an excellent option. And if you think about UC admissions, it is a fact that it's less competitive to transfer from a community college to a UC. So get the big picture here. Now, this possibly is the most important slide that I wanted to discuss with you. We discussed the different types of colleges, and feel free to ask questions, guys. We have plenty of time for questions after I'm done with my slides. Different colleges, what is the key message I'm trying to give here? Different colleges look at admissions differently. If I was like Professor Anurag, if I had a whiteboard, I would actually draw a line on a whiteboard where on the left, I would say non-holistic admissions, holistic meaning whole, W-H-O-L-E, not the other kind. Holistic admissions on the left and non-holistic, sorry, and move it on a scale from left to right, and 10 is fully holistic. What does holistic admissions mean? Holistic admissions mean that they look at all of you, academic performance, your test scores like ACT, but they also look at the person behind the application. Who are you as an individual? And I have a slide that talks to it. So if you get clear, I think if you just want to take one big concept from today, it is this concept that different colleges they sit on different degrees of holistic admissions. So San Jose State and other California state universities, these are completely non-holistic. And if there are any parents, especially ones that grew up in India, if you are on this meeting, our college admissions back in India were completely non-holistic. All they care about is our GPA or performance in 12th grade, and perhaps an entrance exam. Here, the similar concept would be your GPA, your test scores like SAT or ACT, and that's all it is. And the major that you want to apply to. That's all that San Jose State University cares about. So the internships that you're doing with SEVA, if you present it to San Jose State University, they'll say, my applications have no room for your internships at SEVA. Or if you are a really kind person, or highly empathetic person, and you tell San Jose State, consider me because I'm highly kind or highly empathetic, they'll say, that's good to know, but I have no room for it, or I just don't know what to do with it. So that is non-holistic admissions. Completely holistic admissions, example Stanford, example Ivy Leagues, example University of Southern California, University of Chicago, Northwestern, Johns Hopkins, MIT. These are fully holistic, where they look at your GPA, test scores, but lots of other things that I'll talk about in a second. The UCs, University of California, is somewhere in the middle. Again, think of a 10-point scale. 0 is San Jose State University on holistic admission. Stanford is fully 10. UCs are at roughly 7 or so. What does that mean? That your academic performance is is heavily emphasized, but they also look at other things like your essays and others, but not as much as Stanford. So for example, in one of the top colleges like Stanford, even though they're so ultra competitive, about 75% of the students had a GPA of more than 4, but 25% did not. The averages are what I showed you. The point I'm trying to make is that because what does holistic admission mean? That they are looking at all of you. GPA is important, but not everything. So you could have a 3.9. But if there are other things that you have done, which we will talk about, you can still get in. And that is your internship with Seva and the other things that I'll talk about in building a holistic student is what we want to talk about. So a little bit more about holistic admissions, just to summarize this. Academics is still the bread and butter. After all, you're going to study to a college or a university. The two main things are GPA. What kind of courses have you taken? How difficult they were? College level courses like AP, tests like SAT and ACT. But there's also all of the stuff here. What have you done in your activities? What kind of, and activities can be of two kinds. You were in the school marching band, or you were the leader of the marching band. Two different things, right? You played soccer for your school team. Great, nothing wrong with it. But if you want to play for these topmost colleges, I was the captain of the school soccer team. So leadership, the other things that they look for, and this is, so think about this, that if you are a college admissions officer, they're looking at your application, your GPA, your test scores, to see all that. How would they know who Vinny Gupta is as a person? Now, why is that important? For these topmost colleges, and again, remember the sliding scale of holistic admissions. Why is this important? What Stanford and Harvard, they are saying is, you are going to be carrying my brand for the rest of your life, that you are a Stanford student for the rest of your life. And the two things that Stanford, at the end of the day, unfortunately, the two things that they care about, one is their brand, and number two, how big is the size of their endowment, meaning all the money that their alumni have donated. So Stanford and Anurag, sorry, I'm just taking them as an example, not to put you on the spot or anything, because we are a Bay Area audience here. This
Sure.
could be anyone, this could be Harvard. So they're looking for alumni that will carry their brand and also be successful to give back to the endowment. The second thing is that they're trying to create a fit inside campus. What does that mean? When you go to a 4-year college, you would possibly have, so you have 168 hours in the week, right? Let's say even as a student, you would sleep 8 hours a day. So take 60 hours in a week out. You still have 110, 120 hours, of which your university classes would possibly be 15 hours. Some homework takes you to 40 hours, 50 hours. You still have 100 free hours. So, which you are contributing to the campus outside the classroom. So what these colleges are saying is, I want to create not just the classroom experience, but an entire campus experience. So what are you bringing to my campus? Academic excellence given, but what else? So they want to know more about you. Who are you? And how do they know about that? So the seniors would know that the essays and the supplements are a big part of knowing that. Recommendation letters from your teachers, from in this Seva internship, say you get to know Professor Anurag, say he's impressed by you, try getting a recommendation letter from him. That will be so awesome if you can get that. Interviews. So there are several different things that these, as you move from left to right on holistic admissions, that colleges would look for. So let me start winding this down, and we'll take as many questions as you want. There are 2,500 four-year colleges in this country, in addition to about 2,000 community colleges. That's a big, big number. There is a college for everyone. So please don't stress about this, because you'll never become that holistic student if you are afraid about this process. Number two, college admissions, increasingly, while there are colleges that offer non-holistic admissions, like San Jose State University, increasingly is moving towards multidimensional. So try to figure out a balance between academics and the rest of your life. Lastly, to become this holistic student, or what we call multidimensional student, that is not something that you start doing in 11th grade or 12th grade. It's a journey which starts actually when you're very little. But since you guys are already in 8th grade or older, 8th grade is the ideal time to do it. Even if you're 10th, don't sweat. Start thinking like this, because it'll be helpful. So with that, Anurag, shall we open it up to questions?
Yeah, let's do a bit of a fireside chat, Vinny. And what I mean by that is you and I will talk about some of the topics that you brought up. Those open up really interesting threads. I want to explore those while the students are typing in their questions. So all of you, please start typing in your questions in the chat window. Let me welcome Karen in the meanwhile, because I just saw that she joined while you were speaking.
Okay.
Karen, you're on, right?
Yes, I am. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Lovely to have you on this session. We have about 40 people on the call, 30 plus of whom are high school students, really motivated. These are some of the most mature high school students that we have in the Bay Area. They're very well intentioned. They're very mission driven. They're part of a program called SEVA, which is SEVA Lead, which is a program run by a nonprofit called SEVA. And this is a program, as Vinny may have told you, this is a program that's focused on bringing meaningful internship opportunities to them this summer. And every week we have speakers that actually talk about different topics. And this week we are talking about college admissions and what do the colleges look for. So Vinny, let's do a fireside chat if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah, and I will invite Karen into this conversation as and when. So just to add to Anurag's introduction of Karen, so Karen is our lead counselor for our 11th and 12th grade program. She has almost a 20 years experience in college admission. She also is an external reader of applications for the University of California at Davis, which means that every year they come to her for reading thousands of applications and essays. So you have a very good expert with you. Anurag, yes, we are ready.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of take it up 30,000 level, the way you started, Vinny. These are kids who are fairly well versed with community service and the importance of actually making an impact on the society. A large number of them, actually, a good percentage of them. Some of them are new to SEVA, but they are. It's a self-selected group, is what I'm saying. I love one thing that you said. There's a college for everyone, and grades are important, but that's not the only thing, especially for the holistic admissions. But because stepping back a little bit, one thing that came across from your comments was that you should be who you are. Be who you are seemed to be the theme of your commentary. And the another way to say this is that this journey is as much about discovering yourself as it is about getting into a good college. I think good college versus a college that is right for you is probably a more appropriate way of thinking about it. So the question that I had for you is, whether you are in 8th grade or you are in 11th grade, and even if you're a senior and you already chosen a college, I think this journey doesn't stop, right? So how do you think about the activities that you engage in? Do you always put a lens of, how would the colleges look at it? Or would you say, what really excites me? What really energizes me? What gets me sort of going? How would you think about these things?
I'd like Karen to go first on this, and then I'll add some editorial commentary.
Sure.
Okay.
There's actually a really great quote out there in the college counseling world. College is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. I remind that of to students a lot and to their parents, because you're right, it is about fit and it's about match. And because there are so many colleges out there, students should totally strive to find those colleges that are the right fit for them and not try to be someone they're not. They have so many great qualities. It sounds like the students that are part of your organization already are on board with developing the skill sets of what they feel like they can bring to colleges. So that's definitely a great thing. And the fact that they're starting earlier and earlier, that's even better as well, and building on that. Can you clarify one more time what the exact question you want me to answer? I kind of got off on a little tangent to start.
No, this is all relevant actually. The question that I had was, how do the students determine which activities to participate in, and should they always have a lens of how would the colleges look at this?
Right. I think it's a healthy balance is the best approach. The ideal students that get into the most competitive colleges, it's very genuine. It's something that they're invested in. It's not something they do one time in a summer and never build off of that. We often work with families that do have the resources to have them participate in activities, around the world, back in India, for example, or in a different type of country, and do an activity that's super meaningful to them. But the students that really showcase something really special to colleges are the ones that come back after that experience and really build off of it. So, for example, something that they're learning this summer with your organization, if there's some way they can continue to keep building with it when school starts again, or when life gets back to normal, so to speak, I think those are the students that definitely benefit the most. And as far as activities go, college admissions reps, even though most of them are quite young and just out of college, they can totally tell when a student's just doing an activity for the sake of doing it. Like Vinny had said, I read over 1,000. I read 1,100 applications this year for the University of California. And it is obvious when a student just does something for the sake of college admissions. And at the end of the day, it should feel good. It should be something that a student really enjoys. Like, who wants to spend their time doing something just for the sake of college? Like, boo, like that just would not be fun at all. So if you're able to find something you're super interested in, I don't want to overuse the word passion, because I think sometimes teenagers are like, I don't have a passion. I'm like, but you have an interest, like you like things. So find something you like and like really expand on it. And I think the bonus with that is if you can find something you like and then benefit others. So like find something that you're really good at and something that you're really interested in. And then to even add on to that, do something in that field that then can help other people. I think that's kind of like the full picture for sure.
Yeah, you described a lot of what Seva does as an organization pretty well.
Oh, good.
In fact, part of the design of this particular program that the speaker series is part of, it's 3 phases. First phase is the preparation for the summer, and then summer internship itself, and then post summer, how do you incorporate that into your being, into your so very well laid out. Do you want to add anything to that, Vinny?
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things that I would like to add to it is, if you are, since we're talking about college admissions today, if you're aspiring to these top colleges, as I said before, the competition is intense. I'm not trying to scare you. For those of you who would like to aspire to these colleges, you'll need to up your game because your competition is upping their game. So consider 2 things. The first one is that if you do, this is to Anurag's question, right? That how should I look at activities? So consider that if you do something which is just to check box somewhere versus doing something that you have your whole heart and passion behind. So 2 kids, Jane and John. Jane does something which is just to check box, and John does something which his heart is into it. Who would show better outcome? Point 1. The second is, what kind of activity should you be doing? And I would challenge in a good way, in a healthy way, every one of you that think about something that is different in the first place. Nothing wrong with, say, for example, what we've seen, and Karen, I'm sure you've seen this in applications every day, that a lot of kids would go and do volunteer work at their local hospital. Nothing wrong with it if you truly enjoy helping, but just to check box, that doesn't, it's not helpful because you are wasting precious time that you could be doing on something else that you have passion for, right? So what I challenge you guys is think about, a lot of this journey is about self-awareness. Who am I in the first place? Self-discovery. And what we notice all the time, the students that get to these top colleges, they're actually very self-aware as to who am I? What am I good at? What do I like doing? What are my core values, my core beliefs, right? So try to have a chat with yourself. Use your parents as a sounding board. If you work with our company or if you work with your mentors at Seva, ask them for advice. But try to figure that out and then figure out how do you make scalable impact? And that's a big term. What it means is this, that something that is, you can start with something small, right, in your neighborhood street, right? But something that you do at the city level is bigger. Something that you do at the state level is bigger. Challenge yourself to think about coming across as a big picture person, right? Mm-hmm. So we're saying, Anurag, a lot of things here, but I think that the common thread is that don't do things because your friend does it, or your friends or your mom or dad heard somebody else doing it. Because somebody on our team who's a trustee on the Milpitas School Board, he says, if you think like everyone else, you become like everyone else. But what are top colleges looking for? They're looking for a student that is unique, that is special. So think differently.
That's actually well said, both of you. And even though there are 7-point-something billion people on this earth, every one of us is unique. I'm a professor at School of Medicine, and I can tell you that regardless of our our genome being so similar to each other, there are unique. There are biological uniqueness to each of us. So it's the same thing that applies to our our personalities and our interests as well. And so bringing that individuality and authenticity and real interest, and I think the one piece that you added, Vinny, which is think about impact. Think about how you could do the most with the work that you're doing. How you could benefit most people with it, have the greatest impact, the greatest outcome, or whatever. So challenging yourself is one thing that you're talking about. Let me actually follow that up with one of the comments that you made early on is that you don't want to be stressed out. Stress is not good for anybody, right? So these kids there's a constant demand on them on their time with all the different things that they have to do, maybe they can rationalize that a little bit by saying that I'm only going to do things that are of interest to me, but there may be multiple things that may be of interest to them. How do they manage their time, balancing between the grades and the other activities that they may be doing outside, and socializing? I mean, there's having a social life, for example. So with grades, you could always put a little bit extra time and maybe improve that grade a little bit. And it seems like that's an important factor in what schools look at. How do they balance the time?
Yeah, this is right up Karen's alley.
You said the key word. It's about balance. One of the things that I do share with students is it's really important in this process to stay really centered and stay in your own lane is something I always say, in that you need to focus on what is important to you and what works for you. I think we all can think back, regardless of how old we are now, to someone that in high school didn't have to work as hard as I did or you did. Someone that said, yes, I didn't study at all, and all of a sudden they get straight A's in everything that they took. In the real world, we probably realize now that they probably did put a lot of work in. Yes, grades and test scores are important, but at the end of the day, you have to feel what I'm most proud of with students is students that put in the hard work, that still have time to be fun people. They still are pleasant with their families. They're still socializing with their friends when it's safe. They still have time, yes, to watch a Netflix movie. They have time still to be a teenager and go outside and do stuff. They work hard and they put the most effort in that they can. So simple things as far as structuring your day. I think all of us, I actually had a student I worked with last week who showed me, I think I'm an organized person, but he actually took a Google Calendar in his Gmail account and color coded everything based on which I was like, I've never thought to color code everything. So he's kind of challenging me now to color code my calendar. But he actually said, and this is a young man that his mom was like, you have so much free time. And he's like, I don't have any free time. He actually said to me, look at my calendar and how much free time I actually do have. You know, I get up now at a certain time now that school isn't in session. So he now, instead of sleeping till 11:30 every day, he gets up at 8:30 or 9 a.m. right? And then he does some exercise in the morning because classes don't start till 1 now that the school is kind of what it is. And he actually blocked out time. And in that time includes schoolwork, includes still getting together with his robotics team virtually to work and work through. They watch YouTube videos together, and they still have time to study for the SAT or ACT. I think it's just really critical to kind of evaluate where is all of your time going. And I think as an adult, we get better at doing this as we go through life. But for teenagers, you do have a ton on your plate. And there's so much to balance is huge. Balance is key. Because even colleges do not just want a person that just studies all day long. And when they ask you what are things that are important to you, you just say, go to school. I think nobody is probably going to say that in this group today, because obviously you're involved in other things. But being healthy, being balanced in this process, there is a college out there for everyone. And just, taking advantage of all these resources that you do have and spreading it out. I mean, you got your academics, you have your standardized tests, you have your activities at school, you have this internship experience, and then you still have time at the end of the day to watch your Netflix, to go outside and watch TV, etc.
So quick follow up to that, Karen. Is there a balance formula for everyone that's different, or is there a number that you spend 70% of your time on academics and 10% on extra? Is there a formula?
I think it definitely would come down to the individual student. Like some students, I'm thinking of a couple that are super strong in math and science that I work with, but when it comes to English and history, it takes them longer to read the information, and they have to organize their notes differently. And so when they block out their time, they share with me like, yeah, I have to do math. I do math and science later in the day because in the morning it takes me longer to get through some of that material. I do think it is definitely individualized at that point as far as understanding yourself. And that's kind of what Vinny was saying in the beginning, is really understanding who you are as a person is the key to a lot of this, and not always trying to compare yourself to your friend at your school. I know you guys are in really competitive high schools and that's really hard to do. But really staying centered to who you are and what your needs are. How many hours of sleep do you need? Yes, you do need like 8 hours plus of sleep. And some people can operate on less, but you need to block out time to make sure that you're staying healthy during this really stressful time as far as getting ready for college, for sure.
Right. Vinny, do you want to add to that? And then I'll ask one last question and I'll open it up to students after that.
The only thing, just in 5 seconds, I would add that in terms of understanding yourself, in terms of the personalized balance that Karen and you talked about, I would factor in understand your stress levels and your ability to cope with stress levels. Mm-hmm. It is something here in Silicon Valley, we're noticing that for a variety of reasons that we can talk about some other time, that it's just something that you should not be ignoring.
Yeah, that's a really important one. And, figure out what your triggers are, figure out what your mechanisms are in dealing with it, and figure out what is too much for you. So that's very well said. So my last question is a question that was posted on the chat here by one of the students. I think it was Pranav who asked that question. What's an example of a wholesome, well-rounded, experience? I think the question was, what's an actual example of a holistic student profile? That was precise wording. Holistic student profile. Maybe a couple of examples would be useful.
I can actually jump on this, Vinny. I actually had an example I was going to relay like 2 questions ago, a really concrete example. So this is a student that did go to Stanford. It's from, I'm not just using that as always an example, but she comes to mind. She did have the test scores and the grades. So she fit in the profile of what a school like Stanford is looking for. She visited the campus. She showed demonstrated interest. When the college rep came to the school, she was participating in the conversation with the admissions rep. Her essays were super tight and solid, but her activities were on a different level, I always say, from a lot of students. In the 9th grade, she showed a really strong interest, and I'll give you some really specific examples here. She showed a really strong interest in nutrition. She was always a super healthy kid, and this was about 7-8 years ago. So this was before a lot of the mainstream health things that are out now. So in the 9th grade, she started a nutrition club, and she was known for putting up posters around the school about how much sugar was in soda and candy and all this kind of stuff. And people would roll their eyes and be like, whatever. And so it started really simple in like the 9th grade. So yes, they'd have their little club meetings once a week for an hour, very surface level in the 9th grade. Then into 10th grade, she got a little more serious. So she approached our head of school and she asked to bring in a speaker. We used to have all school meetings where they brought in a speaker to talk about nutrition, about how important it was for students that went off to college. Then after that, when she was a junior, she continued to build on this very basic idea of food. When she was a junior, she had a meeting with the cafeteria staff. And they still maybe they don't make these anymore, but there are these things called corn dogs, which are hot dogs that are fried and they're disgusting. Like, I think they are. But the point of it was, she was very concerned about the type of oils that the cafeteria people were using, because it was affecting her friends. I mean, these things were like, oh my gosh, she's like a junior in high school thinking about this. So she actually was part of a discussion about how to make the kitchen staff cook healthier. And then when she was a senior, to cap off this whole experience of what a really cool activity she started with just by starting a club, she started with making a garden at her school, with doing like vegetables and like basil and different types of spices. So this is a student that just started with just a club, an idea, and something she was really interested in, and just really like blossomed into this huge activity that she then impacted all these folks. So yes, she had the grades. Yes, she had the test scores. She got really involved with something she was super interested in and really just gave back to the community based on a simple idea of food. So maybe that gives you an idea of like all the different aspects of like, wow, this is how you can take a simple activity and really develop it. And then obviously on top of having the grades and the test scores. So hopefully that will stick in your mind as far as.
That's a great example. So one thing that we talked about a couple of sessions ago, we had a really nice panel of somebody, one of the co-founders of InternMart, who's a freshman in Berkeley now, but he moderated this session with somebody who's just gotten to Stanford, somebody who graduated from Berkeley and now is at a consulting firm, and somebody who is actually a recruiter, professional recruiter. And the conversation actually led to the range of things that people are interested in this group right here, 30 some high school students. And it was really interesting, the kinds of interests that folks brought up. Somebody wanted to be a veterinarian oncologist, actually. And there was a discussion around public policy, for example. So this group does represent a diversity of interests and passion, if we can use that word, which actually relates well to this. The diversity of background, the uniqueness of different folks, and something that they could potentially build upon. So let me open up the floor to questions. And any final comments, Vinny, before I open it up to students, and then I'll there's an exhortation to the students to talk about specific kinds of things with you both. Any final comment before we open?
No, I think we are good, unless Karen wants to add something.
Sure. Great. So what request that I have for the students, please unmute your microphones and go ahead and ask questions. Or if you want to type your questions in, please do. The thing that I would recommend that you all talk about is, remember how in a couple of sessions back we talked about your interest areas. Even in the last session we brought up some of that. It'll be good to actually explore that and a little bit more. Things that you may not have thought of doing as part of your summer work or as part of your extracurricular stuff beyond your academics that may seem like too odd or too weird, right? Feel free to bring that up, because I would love to see the range of things that we had discussed last time. Maybe more of it, build upon that a little bit. Any questions that you have for Karen and Vinny?
I had a question. So In the example that you brought up, the girl, she clearly had a set path that she was trying to pursue, because like from the 9th grade onwards, nutrition was one of her passions. But what do you guys recommend for students who are considering multiple passions, and ultimately that student is gonna narrow down and find something that they really like, but at this point in time, they're really just trying to see what works for them. What time period, or what point in the timeline would you recommend that student starts to like narrow down and sort of formulate their pathway in what their passion is?
Yeah, I would say
Great question, actually.
it is. Again, this could totally alter, but I would say ideally like 9th and 10th grade is a good time because you're starting high school. There's all of these I just saw your son. Sorry, distracted. I would say 9th and 10th grade would be the great time to start pursuing all of the options that are out there, because usually that's when you're starting high school and you're getting exposed to different subject areas and different opportunities that are out there. And then as you get closer to being a junior definitely getting more in depth in maybe one or two of those specific activities. And it's okay not to have just one focus. It's okay to kind of build off of that and have, maybe a couple things can come together. And then the other thing I want to just throw in there is that it's okay if you are super focused on something like the girl, like I was saying, the nutrition girl and the food girl. But then you could also just do something outside of just that focus that just really brings out what your character is. So I'll give you an example of something that's happening now because of the situation we're in with COVID-19. So pretend this is the nutrition girl, right? She's doing all these wonderful things. And then in her neighborhood, because she's home all the time, she decides to post an ad on the little app Nextdoor. You guys heard of Nextdoor? And basically says, okay, I can run out and get groceries for those of you that are, 65 and older, or whatever the age range is for people that are more susceptible to the virus. And so like, that's just a quality, right? That's just a trait that would look awesome for colleges. It makes her feel good. She's helping her community in addition to this nutrition thing that she's done. So I think it's important for you to realize you don't have to have just one focus because not everybody just has one focus. You could have a couple of things that you're really interested in.
Thanks for saying that, Karen, because we did talk about exploration as the mode of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So saying that you know exactly what you want to do in the 9th grade or 10th grade is like saying that, I still don't know what I want to do in my life. I'm still figuring out, I'm still exploring. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I love that question, and I love your response. Vinny, do you want to add anything to that?
No. I think you and Karen covered that beautifully. Well, I will like to add to what Anurag said. I'm older than him, and I'm still trying to figure myself out. So at your age, if anybody says to you, "Oh my gosh, you are 16 or 17, you need to know what to do in life," I figure out a way to respectfully ask that question. It's like, did you?
Yeah.
So 99% people will say no. So I think
and schools know that, right? I mean, schools, it's not like schools are looking for somebody who's everything charted out for next 50 years, right?
No, and it doesn't. Like, just to quickly add to that, so we talk a lot about majors and being so clear about what we want to study at college. So take an example of UCLA, where my daughter went, and I went for the orientation as a parent. And the dean comes in and he's playing these games with us and stuff. But just to cut the story short, 85%, that's 85, of students in UCLA changed their majors at least once. 85%. And here we are, we spend so much time and energy in figuring out what to study. And there is so much of yelling and fighting inside our homes. And I'm wondering, what is the point of all that? The second thing is, it's not over. Let me actually ask you, and I don't know how you'll respond because we are in a video conference, maybe Sanjana can. What percentage of UCLA students actually changed their majors twice in 4 years? Sanjana?
I'm curious about that number, actually.
I guess like maybe 30%.
Okay, Geeta, you seem to be concentrating a lot. What do you think?
I'm a parent actually, so I have 2 kids who are in college right now, but Can you bring back that question
What
again?
percentage of UCLA students changed their majors twice during 4 years?
Oh boy, yeah, more than
Yeah.
like you said, 80 above of 80%. I know my son was focused, but my daughter did change. So I think yeah, over 80% for sure. 80, 85
So the
over.
answer is 50% change
Oh wow.
twice,
Okay.
85% change once. So Kelly, so Karen and Anurag are totally right. This is about discovery. So don't be defensive about, oh my gosh, I wish I'd known at 16. Dude, very few people figured themselves out at 16. I think you need to have an open mind,
Yes.
experiment, learn from your mistakes, acknowledge mistakes, move on. I actually like to say that you guys are sitting in Silicon Valley, make friends with entrepreneurs. Could be maybe your parents are, maybe somebody else's, because at the end of the day, what Karen and I are asking you to do is to think like entrepreneurs. I think that's the simplest form of everything.
Yeah. Well, one other comment I wanted to make, and I wanted to get your responses to that, Vinny and Karen, is that, even when we explore, even when we, actually Steve Jobs said when he gave this commencement speech at Stanford, he said, all dots connect looking backward, right? Mm-hmm. So, and in fact, in my own career, when I look back, all the different things that I did, they seem like 90-degree turns in my career, but they all seem to connect. They all seem to build upon each other. So even when you are, as Sanjana is saying, that, I may have multiple interests, you try different things and you're doing different things, there must be something that must be common, that must be running, a thread that must be running through those interests and aspirations. When a student is applying to colleges, do you encourage them to think about how these different things connect? Karen?
Yeah, I think there's definitely usually a common thread between an activity. And then I think sometimes it's okay to take something from each activity to build on it for a new one. So I think even if you did something and you didn't end up enjoying it, there's usually one thing as a takeaway that you learned from it. And then also the other thing I wanted to add is sometimes you also are okay with thinking about what things you don't like, or what things it's like we're so focused on what we do like. Sometimes it's okay to be like, these are the things I'm not interested in, or these are things I'm not interested in at this point. Then it opens up your perspective a little bit more as well, and takes a little bit of the pressure off of you. So yeah.
Right. So there is one question that was in the chat window. Sachi, do you want to frame that question for our speakers?
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask, so like, I'm always thinking about like how to spend my free time so that I can be more productive in terms of learning new skills, or just learning other things and like making myself better in a way. So like, how should I spend that free time, or is there certain things that I should do in that free time that will like help me get better in my skills or something?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the answer is there isn't one thing to have you do. So personally, I'm on 28 days now learning Spanish every day. I used to take Spanish when I was in high school and college, which was a while ago. So I started on Duolingo every day. I do 15 to 20 minutes of Spanish because I'm in my house a lot. But spending your free time, you have to really think about what kind of things you would enjoy. Like for me, going to Mexico is a big part of my life. So keeping my Spanish up to date is a good thing to do. Being productive and learning things can be everything from something simple like learning a language, not simple, but something very obvious, like learning a language is a new skill. It could be building something. It could be watching YouTube videos of some skill that someone has. It could be going online and taking a new course for the first time. It could be studying something you never had the time to do. It could be reading. God forbid we read. It could be reading a book as well. But there really, I'm hesitant to like list, these are the activities you should do to be productive. It's more about kind of taking some time and analyzing what are things I wish I had time to do. Maybe it's working with animals. Maybe it's working with elderly. I don't know, whatever makes you feel good. And then there's always ways, I think, to build off of that to give back to other people, even if it's you just feel like you're benefiting yourself. I do think there's ways that you can then make that skill into something that can benefit others.
That's actually great. And I know we're up on our time here. So let me ask one final question that'll allow both of you to sort of share your closing thoughts. We are in a strange time right now, a pretty challenging time for the world, COVID-19, and many of the students actually who are on the call actually are involved in addressing. Some of them are doing 3D printing of personal protective equipment, for example. How is the college admissions process going to change in the coming couple of years in the shadows of COVID-19? And how should these students be thinking about themselves differently in this, COVID world, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it's making people reassess the importance of just things like grades and test scores. I think there's a lot of information out there now that colleges are looking more for positive character traits, more so than just grades and test scores, because as you guys already know, there's a ton of SAT, ACT optional colleges now that are out there. Even subject tests are going away. So it's making you more than just how well did you perform for 4 hours on a Saturday? It's more of like, overall as a person, how positive are you? Like, how have you contributed back to your community? So I think that's definitely, especially now with COVID-19, and it's disrupting a lot of what the summer plans are for some students of what they've been, what they were applying to do, or maybe they paid to do a summer program and now that isn't happening. So now it's more of like, okay, well, how did you spend your summer instead of going to that opportunity? So yeah, definitely positive character traits I think are coming more to the forefront, and then being able to elaborate on them through essays. I think those are things that are starting to gain a lot more traction for all colleges because of this, what's happening now.
Yeah, Vinny, do you have any closing thoughts on that? And then
I'll try to keep it short because this is my favorite topic. But just in the interest of time, I think Karen summarized it well. I would just close out, guys, by repeating it one more time that. And this is a little bit of a mushy, emotional type close because that's the reason I started UC Easy, the company that I co-founded. You guys, most of you, I don't know you personally, but in general, you guys have as children of immigrant parents who are in Silicon Valley, your parents have done really hard work and uprooted themselves from India to come here and give you guys a foundation. I would say build on that foundation and fly high. What do I mean by that? Don't be afraid that you will not have a job after college. Don't be afraid that you will not get into college. Figure out who you really are, follow that passion, but very importantly, take risks. Remember that entrepreneur analogy I gave you? I really, really, really meant it. I think modern day aspirational kids like yourself are really entrepreneurs. You are thinking like a Steve Jobs. That's how you need to think. So think different and ask yourself that question that, Karen, who was the Swedish girl, the climate change, Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you guys to skip your school on Friday and do what she did. Most likely it's not good for you, your school, or your parents. But why is it that she feels so passionate about something that we don't? But we still expect magic, like we want to be admitted to a Harvard or a Stanford, but we are not willing to take risks for what we believe in. So I think it's got to be really a 3-step process. Figure out who you are, self-discovery. Figure out what your passions are. Number 3, take risk in doing so. And talk to your parents and others with the utmost respect. I'm a parent. I'm not saying you guys become rebels by any stretch of imagination. All I'm saying is talk to them, and your parents love you. They will work with you. Trust me, if you show this is really cared for. But I think you need to do that because the opportunity in front of you guys is immense in this beautiful country. But you have to go out there and break that glass ceiling.
That's a great note to end this lovely conversation on. Thank you so much, Vinny and Karen, for making time for these students. And if there are any follow-on questions from them, is that okay if we approach you and share those questions with you? Let's give them a round of virtual applause for the excellent conversation that we just had. I think just to closing comments from my side is the point that Vinny and Karen meet so beautifully is that you got to figure out who you are. You got to figure out what are the things that you want to do with who you are, and then take risks. The 3-step process that Vinny mentioned, and it's nicely summarized in his comment. So with that, we'll end the session, and I'm hoping all of you would have finished your aspirations and objectives and skills section on the intermart.com website, because the positions are going to start getting posted starting next week. There are some positions that are available right away. There are some that are starting in June. So, and with the conversation we just had today should give you a sense of the kinds of things that you may want to do. And by the way, it's okay if you want to do something that's completely different from what anybody else is wanting to do. We will find you a position that relates to that. So on that note, thank you all. Thank you, Vinny and Karen.
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
having
everybody.
us. And
Thank
good
you
luck
so
to
much.
everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.